So I wrote a tweet the other day. I had a little bit of just a moment where I'd picked up my phone and I was thinking a little bit about how educators, how teachers and principals and also ancillary staff in school are feeling at the moment. And my tweet was along the lines of this being a little bit of congratulations, I suppose. Well done on getting through what I would consider to be the longest term one that anyone in education has ever endured. And I thought it was pretty harmless, just a little bit of gratitude public that I could do from this angle, because I do have a really lovely angle of what's happening in education, because I speak to so many schools and get to, I guess, take the national temperature of where people are at, and people are doing it really hard. And I'm hearing lots of expressions like it's been like trying to work through quicksand, we're in survival mode, that kind of stuff. And I just felt that needed to be recognised. And had a fair response. There was a lot of people sort of making comments on it, and most joining in the chorus of gratitude for our educators. But then there was a peanut called Poppy who decided to jump in and say that teachers need to harden up, the principals need to harden up, and if they don't like it, they should get out of the profession. And, in its nature, it's a little bit offensive and abrasive, but, welcome to Twitter, big deal. And I had a little reflection on it, and I thought the problem with Poppy's assertion is that she's late. They already are. So we're losing principals and teachers right now, and we're losing them in a way that is kind of through the pinprick in the damn wall. And my fear is that Poppy's wish will come true, and that pinprick is going to explode, and we're going to have way too many people flooding out of our system. Why would they be doing that? Basically because the balance between pay and conditions is completely out of whack. The conditions thing has gotten out of control. I'm hearing from people, I spoke to a principal the other day who had spent 70% of her working week in class, just trying to get kids through the day because of COVID-related staff absences. I spoke to a principal who's rotating absent year levels. So year 7's one day, year 8's another day, just don't come to school. And you can imagine what that does to learning continuity. And when there's no sense of learning continuity and achievement, particularly in the company of each other, student conduct and behaviour issues explode, because kids aren't in the habit of being able to learn and cooperate in each other's company. Schools are dealing right now with spiking levels of violence and aggression. And when that spikes, and when you've got a reduced staff, and when the staff that are there are reduced in their capacity, their ability to tend to it effectively and consistently is hugely compromised. That gets parents offside. I had one principal tell me the other day that she's got, one of the biggest issues she's got is all this COVID stuff that she has to get through just to survive her working week, but then dozens and dozens of parent complaints about the littlest, silliest things, about the way the school's handling things. Certainly not the reason that she got into principalship. I've got school leaders talking to me about the mental health concerns that they have for their staff members, levels of anxiety, plummeting levels of well-being. I've had handfuls of school leaders tell me about their concerns about suicidal risk amongst their staffs. That just freaks me out. And then there's the level of quality of education that we're providing kids. I had a teacher, a principal, tell me that she basically had 3 staff members who came at lunchtime and said they got notification that they were close contacts and needed to go home. And that meant that her afternoon of principalship was gone, and she had to herd around 100 kids into a library area so that she could put Toy Story on for the afternoon. And as a principal, I hated that. I hated it when Toy Story rocked up for absolutely no reason. But there it was, as an absolute necessity to get the kids to 3:30 in the afternoon, and then you just reload and hope for another day. And all of this stuff is the story of our schools at the moment. And I just want to encourage you to start to think about perspective. So if you're a parent of a kid in a school, particularly if you're the parent of a primary aged kid, I want you to wonder, what if Poppy gets her way? What if all the teachers who are doing it hard said, I don't want to do it harder than this, and they go take a job somewhere else? Because there are plenty of jobs out there that are suitable for people with educational skill sets. What does that do to your kid? What does that do to your kid's education? What does that do to your kid's life trajectory? Knowing that all of the best possible teachers that they could have had in all of the ensuing years are not there, are off doing something else, managing, leading something else, apart from the educational experience of your kid. Because that's where we're at now. It used to be in education that we had probably about the right level of attrition, where kind of the people who really couldn't cope with the job and who weren't suited to working with young people found their way out somewhere or another. The wrong level of attrition would be obviously keeping those people, but it's also keeping all of the people who are suitable, who are wonderful educators. When we lose them, we are in enormous trouble. We are in enormous trouble. The equilibrium is way out of whack. And if you are a parent of a school-age child, I want you to take that into account for me if you can for just a moment as term one ends. There are a couple of things that I reckon you can do. Number one is at a local level, show your support, which means when your kid gets in the car and tells you about some of the disruptions, tells you about Toy Story, instead of lapsing into a conversation about how the school's not doing its job and that's not why you send them to school, have a think about what it would be like if half of the teachers who were there today getting your kid through to 3:30 weren't. Have a think about whether educators really genuinely want the situation and the circumstances that they've got at the moment. And have a think about how when you decide to be a lifelong educator, how demoralising it is when you can't do it, when you just haven't got the circumstances and the tools to be able to help young people make progress, because that's why they got into education. To put young people on a positive life trajectory, and it is sapping every essence of their soul, not being able to do that at the moment. And if you can make your gratitude and your support for the fact that there are people in our schools doing that public, I think that would be appreciated. Whether it's just thanking a teacher, and if you can, do it in front of other people. If you want to use your social media at the moment, don't use it to complain about teachers, use it to thank them, use it to show gratitude. And do it selfishly. Do it because we need those people to not leave. We need those people to stay in our workforce. And it may be just the smallest bit of gratitude that keeps them there, even for just a little bit longer. And the other thing that you can do is speak to the people who make decisions about how education is run in this country. Now, sure, you're all going to get the opportunity soon to vote at a national level, and I'm not telling grown adults how to vote. I'm asking, would you keep education in mind when you cast that vote? Would you keep your kids' education in mind when you cast that vote? And would you give a little thought to who it is that's representing you, of whatever political persuasion that person is, and perhaps write them a letter to let them know that you care about education, you care about your child having access to a quality educator, and you care about what those politicians are doing in order to make sure that your child gets that quality education. There are things we can do. We shouldn't sit still. We shouldn't expect enormous change. No one's coming to save us from the current circumstances right now in schools. But we shouldn't do nothing either. We certainly shouldn't be listening to Poppy.